Hey, thanks so much for listening to the Ridge Community Church podcast. My name is John. I'm one of the pastors on staff at the Ridge, and our vision is to bring the hope of Jesus into every home. So as a piece of that, our goal each week is to bring you something that's hopeful and helpful. So subscribe to this podcast to make sure you don't miss any hopeful and helpful conversations. Hey everyone, and thanks for listening to this episode of the Ridge Community Church podcast. If you find today's episode hopeful and helpful, then please follow or subscribe, and then rate and review so that more people can find the conversation. In today's podcast episode, co-host Nate Bjorg and I have a conversation with guest services director Rachel Schick. Rachel's been at the Ridge for about 8 years now, and she's had quite the journey going from attender to part of the guest services team to just within the last year or so coming on staff. Rachel shares her story about joining a team and how she has seen her own faith journey grow and change because of it. Nate and I both talked afterwards about just how much excitement and enthusiasm she has. It's pretty contagious, and we think you'll love it too. This is our conversation with Rachel. Well, hi, Rachel. Thanks for joining Nate and I on the podcast.
Yes. Hi, John. Hi, Nate. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here with you guys.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for being here, Rachel. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to chat a little bit with you. So thanks for coming.
Sure.
All right. So starting off, just a little fun question. How was your summer? Was it crazy? Was it busy? Was it relaxed and fun? What did it look like for you?
Yeah. So like everyone else, summers are never long enough, right?
Right.
So they go fast.
Yeah.
I can tell you the good things about summer slowly coming to an end is, my beautiful children are back in school. So my grocery bill will kind of slightly go down.
Yeah.
Because I have all boys. No, but our summer was good. We were blessed with a pool this past summer. And so like a big one with a filter and a pump and the whole deal. And so that was really great because we were swimming every day, so that was the first time my boys ever had a big pool like that. So that made our summer just tons and tons of fun. So it was good. Summer was real good.
That's awesome. I'm kind of like slightly imagining Nate in one of those like giant pool floaties, just sitting there reading a book. I don't know why, but I just like have this envisionment of you doing that, Nate.
Yeah.
Dude, we had an up-ground pool growing up, and we destroy those floaties like every week.
Yeah, it's funny
awesome.
because they're like $5 a piece. So we like stocked up on them because we went through them so fast.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, hey, I wonder, Rachel, could you take us back to maybe when you were first starting coming to the Ridge, and at some point you made this decision to start serving, which is kind of what we're talking about today. What kind of made you make that decision? What kind of led to that?
Yeah, no, for sure. So, gosh, taking back, so we're talking 8 years. So it's been a long time since, I've been coming to the Ridge. And when I started coming to the Ridge, probably just after a month, maybe two of going back and forth, I just felt like I wanted something more. I enjoyed coming back and forth to services each week, but I wanted to connect with people. I wanted to learn more what this stuff was all about, this Jesus stuff and community and all of that. So I took a step and started greeting. That was the very first place that I served in. And when I actually took that step and started greeting, it changed everything for me, because I met a ton of new people that greeted with me. It started to make a church that seemed big, smaller, because now I started seeing familiar faces because I was, serving. So I was greeting every other Sunday and still attending every week. And, when I started regularly serving like that, it continued to open up other things for me, such as joining a small group. And then ultimately, opening my heart up and getting baptized and so forth into my faith journey. So for me personally, serving was my very next step into my faith journey that kind of just opened up this whole world that I didn't even know existed. So super cool, like very, very cool. But yeah, really what made me want to is I just wanted to connect. I wanted to meet people, connect. That's exactly what serving did for me. And it was great. It was the best step I probably could have taken.
That's so I feel like I resonate with what you said about big church feeling small through that process. And I don't know. Could you just like unpack that a little more? Because I feel like that's something probably a lot of people feel when they come to this big church, and just like, what does it look like for that to actually feel small, even though it is so
Yeah,
big?
for sure. So before I joined a team and started serving, I would see faces, just not sure who people were. But once I started to serve and I started to meet people and new friends and things like that, when I would come to church, then I would see familiar faces like, oh, hey, and it started to feel more, and I never not that I didn't belong or anything at the Ridge or Connected, but after I started serving and started seeing familiar faces and like having friends, I really felt like it was, like my church home, I guess, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. So when I say like, a big church seems so small, when I started serving and connecting with people, a lot of faces that I would come see every week, I knew they were familiar to me now. They were people that I was serving with and people that I was just connecting with because of taking that step serving. So it was just walking through the doors of not knowing anybody to walking through the doors and for sure seeing a few faces that I recognized that were familiar, that were friends now. So that's how it started to make the Ridge feel a little smaller for me because I started just connecting with people and seeing familiar faces.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You talk about how as you were serving, eventually it was part of why you wanted to get baptized. Was that like just because serving like connected you to God in a different way, or what was the heart behind that?
So I guess when I first started serving, I really didn't I grew up first, let me say that I didn't have any church background growing up. So I didn't have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of experience with faith and Jesus and things like that prior to coming to the Ridge. And so when I first started serving, it was great to take that step. But as I continued to do it, I started to understand why I wanted to serve, like the meaning behind it. That I remember what it felt like walking through the doors for the first time of the Ridge, and I was nervous. And so if I can just make one person feel comfortable walking those doors by, greeting them and smiling and creating an experience for them that is not nerve-wracking,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to do. And so for me, as I started to just see the impact of doing that for people, my heart just started opening more and became a lot more sensitive to Jesus and what it means to serve and why we serve. And so my faith just really started to take off. And then at the same time, it just led to, like I was mentioning, like small group, but I don't know, he just does this shift in you, like you guys can attest to, like when you start opening up, he really starts to make things come clear for you on why you're doing what you're doing. And so serving for me was just that. It was probably the first action step that I took in my faith that I would say connected me from my heart to Jesus. Because I started to, it wasn't an item on my list anymore to do. It was something that I lived to do because I wanted to. So,
Well, this is good stuff. I don't know. People are gonna be taking notes here. There's a lot of good layers there, man.
man.
Well, let's hone in on, since we're talking about serving. Let's hone in on that. It sounds like you start serving, and that's kind of your initial into a lot of different outlets at the Ridge, and it almost sounds like you kind of had this like rediscovery process, or like an added value to serving and like understanding the greater picture of it. And so how did that change your experience serving when you kind of like felt that new life and that new purpose? And what did that kind of look like?
yeah, so it was, so as I continued to serve, it kind of, serving just became a part of what I did, just became a part of my life, my every other week kind of routine. It just became something that effortless, I guess, so to speak, where it's just something that I became naturally wanting to do. Like I wanted to make people feel welcomed. I wanted to, let people know that we were happy they were here, and it just became something like deep within my heart that I just really wanted to do because God has blessed me with times of seeing somebody come to the Ridge for the very first time, super closed off, nervous, scared, to being welcomed and feeling welcomed as they walk through by serving them, like greeting at the door, watching these people slowly, like an onion, like they just peel off layers. And now like I see people getting baptized and, leading groups, and their whole journey started, by taking a step through our doors and engaging with our teams, like, and with myself, like greeting. So just watching that transformation for people and knowing that you had maybe even a small impact on that is so cup filling for me. So that's where it really impacted, where all I wanted to do was serve, and like I had to just like kind of stop serving so much at one point.
I do remember there being a conversation at one point where you were like decided to serve in like multiple different areas, and it was like, Rachel, we need you to pick like one or two. Come on.
I remember that, John. I remember that. I was like, what do you mean too much? Like,
yeah.
no,
I love the transition. Like it was like, because a little bit it started off, and I think it's fine that it started off this way. Like, oh, you kind of wanted something. I think a lot of people started serving that way too, right? Where they start off, it's like, oh, this is partially for me, right? Like it's partially because like I want to connect, which is I think is totally fine. And then there was a transition to where it's like your heart connected to the purpose of what you were doing, where it became bigger than just connecting with other people, but it became this like you were connected to a purpose. And then that goes even farther to change a little bit about what made Rachel Rachel, like to have it be like, no, this is now part of who you are as a person, is a person who serves others. That's just like, that's a really cool transformation and journey.
Yeah, it really is. And honestly, like this might sound a little crazy, but I'm telling you this is the honest truth. Like, it's like when I would have super cool moments of serving, like, just being up front and guests walking through the doors, and like I would get these promptings and hear these things in my head, like, like we all get promptings by Jesus, right? In our hearts and our minds, right? You just get things that are put there. And, like I would just, hear things like, yes, like love them. And, just the value of people, thoughts would just play in my mind a lot. And so, it's cool. I just want to say, like, there was a really cool story about somebody who had to do some kind of hours for community service and was just looking to fulfill that. And they walked through our doors, and, I happened to be the one greeting that day. And lo and behold, this person with, not a in-depth background ends up serving with us and getting baptized, and, all because they accidentally walked through our doors to fulfill some community service hours.
Yeah.
Stuff like that is super cool, and so it's just awesome that if I look back at all the times God had me where he needed me in that moment for that person who walked through the doors. And, if I hadn't not take that step to serve, I don't know where I'd be, kind of thing. So it's just, it's super powerful when you look back to see what God has done through serving in your own life and others.
Yeah, so you just touched on one example of this. I'm curious. You're now in a position where you lead teams, right? You're no longer just but you're no longer only a greeter, but you're leading greeters, and you're helping train those teams and develop those teams, and seeing lots of people with their own journey like that. How have you seen people grow? How have you seen people like changes, like maybe somewhat similar to your story?
Yeah, it's so fun being able to lead teams today, and the level and capacity that I do. I always tell people that every Sunday, someone's first Sunday, every Sunday, right? And so when we get a chance to serve on Thursdays, Sundays, I mean, we get that opportunity to just be that first point of contact for somebody, or just to make a difference in someone's experience. And what's super cool is when I've seen somebody come to the Ridge for the first time and I'm serving on a team, I see a guest walk through the doors, they have a great experience, and then they start to ask questions about our teams and serving. And then I've seen people take that step and join one of our teams on guest services. They start serving. The next thing I know, they're team leading on serving, like they're leading a little greeter team, or they're leading a little usher team. And just to look back at, had their experience walking through those doors not been what it was, would they be leading today? And so where God really blessed us, I think, as a church is that our serving teams, specifically guest services speaking, our teams are just, they're great people, and we're all, we're just all on the same vision and mission, it's just creating that environment for that guest. And just, our team serves so selflessly week after week. It's just a cool blessing to be a part of. And so, like I said too, though, like when God allows you to see the transformation in someone's life, because of serving, man, there's just nothing better, So it's super cool. And I always tell people, like, it takes a lot to take that step to join a team and serve. Like, it certainly does. But what's cool is that we all know we're in this together. We're all one big team, and we all started at some point somewhere. And so our teams are just, they're just welcoming people with when we have new team members sign up. So it's so cool. I just cannot get enough of it. Like, really. So I get so excited. I got to like reel myself in sometimes.
No, it's great. I love it. I love the excitement and enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Rach, you just like ooze like God at work and like all he's doing through your ministry and stuff.
Thank you.
That's the first time I've ever heard someone say ooze in like a positive way, I think.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, it's like everything you're saying, like you said, you just have this excitement and you're just unpacking these different ways that you really see God moving through your serving and the people around you serving. Do you think that was just a natural result of the people you've been around and serving and stuff? Or do you think there were also like some key moments of like learning to notice those things more and learning to like listen for God's prompting and stuff?
I think that's a great question, Nate. Thank you. I think that it's a common. I think it's
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. I think it's a combination because, I've been fortunate too along my serving journey to have some great people that have come alongside me to help equip me, coach me, as far as, to just dive deeper. What does it mean to serve? The why? We do pick up things on our own, I think, as we serve and develop our relationships with Jesus, for sure, hands down. We pick up things, but I think when you have people around you who, are understanding what we're doing here, I think it just helps make you more aware of things that are happening through serving. So, like, for example, when we've had team members serving on guest services, and then, they're going to step into leadership, it's pretty cool how it's not about you anymore. It's about, of course, your journey is important, but it's about people that you're pouring into. And so it kind of just makes you aware of things that, maybe you weren't really aware of before. And then I think a big impact for me personally, as I really think about it, I think, is when God has allowed me to see the impact of serving in others, like what it's done to people's faith and journeys. That's when it really, like, for me was like, okay, wow, in addition to people pouring into me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's kind of one of those things, like we talk about, like, you don't want to have to see it to believe it, right? You want to trust it. That's what our faith is. But when God gives that extra little cherry on top to show you where you can see it to believe it, it's very impactful, I think, right. At least for me.
Yeah, no kidding.
Do you think people have any misconceptions about serving?
I do. I think that, I think sometimes the commitment, I think sometimes that just kind of scares people, and that's understandable. And I totally get it. Yeah. But once we actually take that step and explore, we see really that it's super flexible. It's super, like, we work with our teams to make this work for people that want to serve. So I just think that, when we always tell people when they sign up to serve and they join a team on guest services, you're not signing a year contract and locked in, hands down. Yeah. We just let people know that, like, just come try it out. Just come check it out. There's so much flexibility. And I don't think people sometimes really realize that. It is like we work with people. We want people to do things that we believe God has given them gifts to do. Everyone has spiritual gifts. We've talked about that before. And so sometimes, people don't know what does God want them to do. And sometimes you won't know until you try some things, so we encourage people, just come shadow with us. Just come check it out. You can start out in one area, and then a few weeks later, a month later, if you want to try another area, you're more than welcome to. We fully support that. So I think sometimes with that, John, like just the commitment and, I don't think people really realize the flexibility that is available with serving, because we want to make this, a great experience for people when they want to join our teams.
Yeah, I really appreciate how there's this focus on the impact that you can have, and not, and hoping that and seeing the growth in their journey, versus kind of this mentality of like, hey, we just need warm bodies to stand here. You know what I mean? It's like a completely different mindset than that,
Yes, for sure. We tell people all the time that, even in, like even in leadership roles, like team leads and so forth of different areas that we have, we don't look at our teams as bodies filling spots. Like we never do. It's never looked at that and like that, and it never will be, because that's not what this is. We feel that everyone that signs up to serve, God is calling you to do that, and that, there's an intentional reason for you being there, because we just don't know whose path God is going to cross with ours. That's supposed to be, so yeah, it's a lot deeper for us as far as how, it's definitely not a task on the list. And, just so people know that, everyone is valued that joins our teams for sure. We definitely don't look at it like a body filling a spot.
Man, I don't know like how better somebody could like talk to somebody about serving than you'd have done like through this conversation. I'm like, man, I need to fly back to Wisconsin. I need to join this greeting team.
Yeah.
Like I need to get a part of this. I don't know, Nate, you got any more questions?
Thanks.
Man, I'm with you, John. Rachel, the way you just communicate your excitement and just it's inspiring.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
I feel like I need to serve now too.
Put a blue t-shirt on.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Well, thanks, Rachel. Thanks for coming on and sharing.
Yeah. No problem. No problem. Thank you guys. And so, I appreciate the time with this for sure. And so last thing, just so everybody knows, if everyone hears, we are always welcoming new friends. So if anyone wants to take that step and join our teams, we are more than happy to onboard and support that. So
awesome. Yeah, and we can put a link to like our serve stuff in the show notes too, so people can get that really easily. So, well, that was our conversation with Rachel. Nate, let me send it over to you first. Do you have any takeaways that stick out to you?
Man, I just feel like, yeah, like normally you would write, like last time I would like write a couple things. But I feel like the big takeaway was just like hearing her story and having her just like unpack her excitement about serving and like the value and purpose that she's gotten personally from it, but sees in the people around her too. Yeah, she's a good she communicates it really well. Yeah, they found a good candidate there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of passion there. It's clear, I think that one of the cool, and I think I mentioned this to her, but kind of the cool transition of her journey as kind of how she went along, right? And I kind of think that speaks to anybody who's looking to serve or even currently serving can kind of latch onto something as a part of that journey. Like starting off and being like, hey, I want to connect with people. I want to be more involved in this place and not feel like it's so big. And so you join a serving team and you're part of a serving team. And then it's like, okay, well, what's next for me? Well, it's like really connecting to, hey, what is the why behind God is calling you to do this? Like what is your specific purpose at that time in that place? Yeah. And then who knows, maybe you'll be leading teams, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious
how God works.
Yeah, I'm curious if we can just real quick, like you lead teams as well. And so were there things that she was saying that
Mhm.
kind of ran along similar to what you've seen?
Yes. I'm going to be honest, like, yeah, as somebody that is in a very similar role to hers, just in a different ministry, I mean, that excitement that she displayed and like I said, the way that she just kind of really articulated her journey in serving, for me as a leader, filled me with that same kind of morale and like communicating that to my team. Um, and I think particularly the way that she spoke about like God working through her ministry and like where God has shown her the work that he has doing, because kind of to her point, you don't always get to see sort of those like results from like how
Yeah.
you're serving God, but he is gracious to sort of show us, encourage us in that way sometimes. And yeah, it can be easy whether you are a leader or whether you're just like serving on a team. It can be easy to sort of miss that, right, and miss what God is doing. But man, if you just take a moment to catch some of that excitement that Rachel was sharing, and you can see God doing awesome things. And so, yeah, I of course think of my ministry area and the things God is doing there. And yeah, I'm pumped to get back with my team and just sharing some of that stuff.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I think just a clear action step for anybody is if you're listening to this and you're like you haven't joined a term yet, you haven't tried serving, try it, give it a shot, and see what God does in your life and in the lives of the people around you as you're impacting them. Because like that passion and excitement that Rachel has, that comes from for a reason, is because she's seen some amazing things happen. And so we want you to be a part of that too, because we know that God is
Mm.
calling, and think you have wonderful gifts that he can use to make people's lives filled with more hope and um, than only he can bring. So, well, thanks for listening to this episode of the Ridge Podcast. And if you liked it, you found it hopeful and helpful, make sure you subscribe or follow. Maybe share it with a friend. Maybe share it with somebody who you think, man, they could really try out serving and make a big impact. And walk them through that. Share this with them. And yeah, thanks for listening.